What's up, guys? Warren here, answering a question about RADwood cars from each country of origin. So I had to write some notes because it was kind of hard, and it was a little more difficult to choose, and I kind of ended up going just with some first things that came to my mind. So bear with me, and I'm sure my answers will change tomorrow, but that's how these things go. Okay, Germany. Top RADwood car from Germany. I think this one is a sort of common car for most, RADwood cars. It's not super special, but I think it embodies the era of RADwood, kind of that yuppie sports car. So I'm going with a BMW M635 CSI, and I love them. I think they're perfect styling and very fun to drive, timeless design. So that's my choice. Honorable mention is a BMW M1 Pro car. It did start life in the 70s, so I kind of shied away from it just because it's not true RADwood, but M1, and then the last iteration of that would be the Pro car. There's one at Canepa Motorsports, and it's got a big wing, just fender flares, really cool car. Italy. This is going to be something that reminds me of a very popular video game from our childhood, which is Outrun. That is a Ferrari Testarossa convertible. In this case, Strawman, who is from the Southern California area, would take these cars and chop the roof off. Did a pretty good job. He did SECs, and I think he still did them all the way up until like late 90s. So 456 Ferraris would get chopped. And Testarossas aren't incredibly rare, so it's okay to cut them up once in a while, and the result was pretty rad. So Testarossa convertible is what I'm going with. Honorable mention is a 288 GTO. Can't go wrong there. England, Aston Martin Lagonda, the craziest RADwood sedan of all time. I don't know how else to describe it. If you don't know what it is, look up Aston Martin Lagonda. And I'm going for Series 3, which is only available in 1986. It was kind of like just the perfect version of the last of that early style. So that car did start in the 70s, but the 86 version is what we're going for. And then Japan. This is another car that's kind of like that 635 CSI common. You can find them. They're not super valuable. But they embody everything that is RADwood. This is a 1985 Toyota Celica GTS convertible. So that's pop-up headlights, fender flares, funky wheels, 80s interior. It kind of does it all. And then rear-wheel drive, manual transmission, all the good stuff. So definitely that's high on my list. A white one would be key. So 85 Celica GTS. And then France. This was a tough one, a Renault Alpine. That is the later version, not the A110. This is a late V6, I don't know what else they call it, GTA, something like that. So again, flared fenders, crazy design, really cool car. I'd love to check one out and drive one. And then US, this is the hardest one. I don't know, we didn't really pull off that many great RADwood cars. Maybe in comparison, we're just too used to them, so they don't stand out as much. But I'm going H1 Hummer. That's right. It's angular, it's American as hell. I just think it kind of checks a lot of boxes, and it's always unique. Every time you see one, they're pretty amazing. Huge, wide cars. So H1 Hummer, and then the Transport Pontiac minivan. That's my honorable mention. So super funky. Where are they now? I don't know if any exist, but if a minty one showed up at RADwood, I would definitely go check it out. So that is my choice. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'd love to hear what you think. Cool. See ya.
This is a really hard question, and it gets really hard with the Japanese cars because I have a hard time. I don't know. I'm just don't have that many cars that I'm in love with from Japan in that era, I guess. And then it's also hard with the German cars because I like a lot of the stuff. And then American cars, it's hard because do I go full RADwood or do I go just like my favorite car from that country? So I'm gonna keep this short because last time I went way too freaking long. I did an art style long tail. So this time I'm just gonna kind of run through them, and yeah, you'll agree or disagree or hate me for my answers. So let's start with America. From America, I'm going to go with the 1986 Mustang GT coupe. So that's a quad headlight car. Last year, before they went to the covered headlights, the singular headlights. I like the looks of these. I think they're cool. I think they've kind of aged gracefully, and I think they look really rad now, and I'd kind of like to have one. And then from Italy, I'm going to go with, I'm sure the other guys, you have to go Ferrari F40, right? So I'm going to go with a little more beautiful car, 288 GTO. Not much more to be said about that. It's a beautiful car. It's super special. I think less than 280 were made. Sound amazing. So that's my choice for that. And then from France, I'm going with the car I have talked about on the podcast before. So I'm going to go with like an 83. I think that was the last year, maybe 84. I think it was 83 of the Renault A310. So if you don't know this car, it's super RADwood. Like, I would love to have this car at RADwood. It's so weird looking, just so funky, but so cool. It's kind of a grand touring car. I would say it's probably like a 928 and 6 Series competitor. It's in that class, like Jaguar XJ-C. So it's just a big touring coupe, and it's really funky looking. I think that would be amazing. That's like the most RADwood car. The other cars that I've chose so far are more just, really kind of good cars from their, respective countries. From England, I'm going to go with around the same year, like 83-ish, Aston Martin V8 Vantage. So these cars a lot of them had they have the quad headlights, round headlights. They look a lot like a 65 Mustang Fastback. And the rear, totally rips it off, basically. So it's like a 65 Mustang Fastback with a little bit of Euro flair, and obviously more modern. So yeah, I think they're really cool looking cars. And I would take one any day. And I think that's like the car. Yeah, it's definitely up there. And then from Japan, first thing that came to mind was a 1985-ish Supra. So that's the kind of really boxy Supra with the bolt-on, the flares and everything. I just think they're really cool. They remind me of a Porsche 944. But I would never choose one over a 944. So with that being said, I'm going to go with a mid-90s Acura NSX with the Targa top. So an NSX-T, I think it's called. I don't have another convertible on this list, and for this one, I guess I'm filling out a garage. I'm not really, but I want to go convertible or Targa, so I'm going to go with an NSX Targa, and also the Supra. I just don't think it would drive as well as a 944 in any situation, so why would I ever drive that car? But the NSX, definitely has power and handling and all that stuff, so pretty good cars, despite all the crap I talk about them. And then from Germany, I'm going to go with a Porsche 944. 944 has been I don't know, since as far back as I can remember. I would draw Porsche 944s when I was, 6 years old. I remember getting all the magazines, and I was always the 944 was the car that excited me. The 968 came out. I was super stoked on it. And, the 911 was never my favorite. Although, I love a G-Body 911. But, it's kind of the reason I have my 944 now. I came back to it after owning a 911 and 928, a couple other things. And I've kind of gone back to the 944 a few times, and now I have it. And, I've had it for this one for quite a few years now. And yeah, I think 944 is like my quintessential Radwood German car. It's not the most Radwood car there is, but it's pretty Radwood. It's in movies like 16 Candles and uh, actually, I don't even know what else it is in, but it's definitely in some other movies. And yeah, that's my definitely my Radwood car, and it's my choice for German car. So hopefully you guys enjoyed my list, and I'm curious to see what the other guys chose. Bye.
Um, what would be our favorite Radwood era cars? And my mind immediately goes to like the most Radwood cars, which aren't necessarily my favorite. Uh, for example, the most Radwood American car by far is a Vector. Whether it be a W8 or an M12. I mean, how can it get any more Radwood than that, right? But that isn't my favorite American Radwood era car. My favorite American Radwood era car is a C4 Corvette Callaway Sledgehammer. That car is just so ridiculous, right? I mean, twin turbo V8, something like 800 horsepower, went well over 250 miles an hour back in '88, I believe, and it just looks super cool. I mean, it's got that additional, kind of body cladding, if you will, with the NACA ducts and all sorts of gills and stuff, but at the same time, almost understated. I mean, it's not a fucking Koenig wide body 928 or something, but it's definitely a super Radwood car. It's typical V80s, very over the top, crazy power, and looks rad. I love it. A favorite Italian Radwood era car. Everybody knows I love F40s. I mean, I just can't help it. That is by far my favorite Radwood era car. I mean, it's my favorite car, period. So it's kind of hard to not pick that. I was trying to think of like some runner-ups, something, I guess, some shout-outs, if you will. And after driving that Lancia Delta Integrale Evo 1, I mean, it's one of those cars that I've always loved. Growing up, that it's just a car that I was always super into. Shout out to that car. It's not my favorite, but it's definitely a super cool car. It has so much presence and it drives great, and it's just a really interesting car. I really really like them. F355 Ferrari, a huge shout out to that car. One that I've also always loved and been one of my top favorite cars ever since I was in high school. One of the best sounding V8s, period, best sounding engines, period. Still want one, even though everyone says that they're, maintenance nightmares and all that, but maybe someday I'll be able to make it work. Japanese. So this one's going to be a little controversial because it's at the very, very tail end of the Radwood era. It is 99, but it is a Radwood era car. I mean, shit, it goes all the way to 99, right? If we're going to go by that criteria, and it is an R34 Skyline. The R34 Skyline is my favorite Japanese car, so obviously hugely forbidden fruity for us. We still can't import them. I don't know if we'll be able to eventually. Maybe. I guess in California we'll be able to work something out, but it's going to be very expensive to make it work, and we'll see if it's worth it. But they're just amazing cars. They're super capable. They're stunning to look at. They're just awesome. I love them, and I think it's like the coolest Skyline. I mean, yeah, the KPGC 10, which is pre-Radwood era, the first one was super cool, and the Hakosuka, as they call them, are very, very awesome cars too. But the R34 Skyline is definitely my favorite. So controversial again. Shout out to the FDRX7. I will be getting one of those hopefully soon. That is top right up there with the NSX for me. Yeah, I guess I'll leave it at that. I mean, there's a lot of tuner Japanese cars that came to mind, but or even foreign cars that were tuned by Japanese tuners, but nothing that really jumps out. I mean, it's top favorite, definitely R34. R33 super cool. Spec V is really awesome too. I think it's a little more understated. I used to not really like them, and they've grown on me a ton in recent years. And so I even considered doing like the R32 Skyline's Calsonic livery on one of the R33s at some point, but I don't know. We'll see. It's basically an updated, better version of an R32 in terms of mechanicals and everything. Yeah, a little heavier or whatever, but France. Everybody knows I love R5 turbos. Can't help it. It is definitely my favorite French Radwood era car. They're super rad. I mean, just everything about them. They're just conceptually, getting a little Le Car basically, and that's what they had to work with. The engineers basically had to use an existing platform to build this like homologation car, rally car. So they put the freaking motor behind the front two seats, made it this crazy mid-ish, rear-ish engined machine, and it's just turbocharged rally mobile that looks epic with ridiculously wide hips, and it's like this funky little, I don't know, boxy thing, and they look amazing, and I love the heritage, and I love that they're supposed to be super difficult to drive, like at the limit, and I mean, it sounds challenging and exciting and awesome all at the same time. So that's definitely my favorite Radwood era French car. German car. This one was difficult, but I'm gonna go with this one, and I definitely I've convinced myself that this is the one for me, as they say. Roof CTR Yellowbird. For the same reasons, super over the top, and just so rad. I mean, rear-wheel drive, turbocharged, 911 G-body based. It's got NACA ducts. It's just super powerful, and everybody remembers that video of that. I forget the driver's name, but just like ringing the hell out of it around the Nürburgring, wearing like I believe tennis shoes and no helmet, and just that is a car that I've. It's the pinnacle for me. It's like just so ridiculously over the top and so awesome, and it looks great. I love the front bumper. I love the NACA ducts. I love the wheels on there, and it's not super crazy over the top like exaggerated Radwood, but it's just a super awesome performing car, and it's really challenging to drive, and I can see it being a blast to experience. It was the fastest car in the world at the time when it was released, production car, right? So it was like 87, I think. Definitely exceeded something like 216 or 215, so pretty awesome. British, this one I know Lane's gonna hate this one. Yeah, McLaren F1's one of the best cars, if not the best analog car ever made, right? But I have something for these damn things, and maybe I'll drive one and I'll be super disappointed, but it could be Gran Turismo effect for me as a kid playing this car. But I love the Lotus Carltons. I think they're so rad. I mean, manual transmission, sedan, kind of understated body. I think they look great. You got the side skirts and the kind of the air dam, and the big sealed like headlights, and just that shape and the simplicity of it works for me. 177 mile an hour top speed, twin turbo V6, and they're supposed to handle really well, and obviously they haul ass. So that car just works for me. I love the super basic, simple interior. It's not bad. I mean, it's like kind of E34-esque, and I don't know. It seems it's total sleeper. And most people don't even know they exist. Let alone if someone were to see one on the streets here. I mean, I think you could drive past most people and no one would even look twice. But so it's super rad in that way. That would have to be my England choice. I couldn't think. I mean, yeah, XJ220's right up there. I mean, shout out to that thing. The Astons of the era, yeah, they're pretty rad too. But this is the one for me. Lotus Carlton for England. So there you go, Joe Polo. Whatever your numbers on Instagram are, those are my Radwood era choices from all of those countries. Later.